Part A matter is the Noble Village subdivision. Would someone like to move the motion, and then I'll invite Jimmy Chen? No. I only want a mover and a seconder of the motion. And
just ask a question.
sorry, well,
because staff have the information into the 10A, so whether we need to move this one or just discuss the staff the kind of information first, because there's the same issue.
yes, it is the same issue.
Yeah.
I mean, one. It depends whether you want to debate a motion that says that the council resolve not to pay the sum of $60,000, and or whether you want to debate the resolution. I mean, I think we should debate both of them together. Well, in order to assist us, why don't I just invite the community board to present their position on it, and then we'll work out exactly how we're going to do this. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor and Councillors. Debbie, do you want to raise your issue first, and then I'll follow on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Councillors, for this opportunity to speak. Being newly appointed on this board, I've found it really intriguing coming in right at the end of the situation with Noble Subdivision, and I'm sure you all are too. There was no legal assumption by the board for costs, as per John Higgins' executive summary. However, I believe there is moral law here to consider. Now, the rationale behind this is that the independent road safety report done by Dr. Shane Turner has vindicated Mr. Stokes' concerns of the dangers of Noble Subdivision by highlighting the contentious issues as serious and significant, which now requires amendments to the original plans. Dr. Turner mentioned at our meetings of serious personal danger or even death could occur in its present form. We have a lot to be thankful to Mr. Stokes for. We ought not to fear setting any form of precedence of affording recompense to Mr. Stokes. Instead, embrace this opportunity to learn, change the process so this never happens again, to ensure that our new subdivisions, which we've got a lot of coming out in the east, are safe going forward. After discussions with Bruce Conahan at our meeting last week up in the elected members' lounge, we could adopt a similar process as Manukau City Council as part of any subdivision plan at the expense of the developer, is to have this independent road safety report done prior to any commencement of subdivisions. Bruce Conahan now works for GHD, but was a member of the Christchurch of the Manukau City Council for many years. This was part of their district plan review. We are seeking recompense in good faith, and which has been brought to light via Colin Stokes' intervention here. And in summary, hindsight is a wonderful thing. How much would we have appreciated this private intervention in the CTV debacle? Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. I feel very similar, that it's a moral obligation, I think, and that precedent can be addressed by what Deb's just referred to as a change in the district plan that requires a subdivider or a developer to have this audited safety report as part of their resource consent application or their plan change. So when we're fearing precedent, I think a plan could be put in place to embrace that. The other thing, councillors, is that the staff have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this issue as well. to try and retain the unsafe roads to the point in time when the traffic safety audit came out and said that there are significant and serious issues to do with that roading layout. So elected members, to my knowledge, wouldn't have had any idea of the amount of ratepayers' money that has gone into trying to defend an unsafe or dangerous road. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. What we're asking for you to consider today is $60,000 to recompense out-of-pocket expenses by concerned residents to try and bring this matter to the council's attention, which it has done now, and thankfully a lot of these safety issues are being addressed and looked at as a way to move forward. But what we've got to be really thankful for, I think, as ratepayers of Christchurch, is that we haven't allowed the road to be built as per the original plan. The residents and all other concerned parties have been shut out of this process, and it was a very significant change when you go from a 25-metre road to a 12-metre road. That is significant. When the cycle lanes vanish off the face of the earth, that's significant. When the medium strip to allow right-hand turns in a busy part of a road is taken out, that's significant. There's a lot of stuff there that as a community board, irrespective of Mr Stokes, we would have been really concerned about it. When I first went there and seen the road being constructed before the tar seal was laid, I thought this is an absolute no-brainer. How can this happen? So it wasn't only Mr Stokes, it was us as a community board as well. But we find it difficult to actually raise funds and engage experts to counter something that the staff are okaying. We find it very difficult to do that. In fact, it's impossible. So we've got to rely on members of the public to actually take up that banner for us. We have to, because we are limited in what we can spend our funding on. So that's where I'm coming from today. I don't want to take up any more time, but just to say that just think about this. Why should you penalise a very active community that has people's lives as their concern, their safety? Why should we penalise them and say, well, that's okay, you can pay the bill, but thanks very much for the work you've done on our behalf? I think that we're obliged as a city council to honour that and pay that group back. And when I say a group, I say it's more than one individual. One individual's got his name on the bill, but I've seen documents that have got many people's names on it, so that's not only just Colin Stokes. I just want to put that to you today as well. But they aren't an incorporated society. But anyway, I will rest my case there, Madam Mayor and councillors, and just plead for, don't be too worried about the precedent, but just think about it morally, do we as a city appreciate the fact that we're heading towards solutions now?
Okay, well, look, I think that rather than ask questions, we'll go straight to debating the matter. So I'll move that the council resolve not to pay the sum of $60,000 to Mr Stokes. Do I have a seconder for that position? Vicky Buck. Is there any debate on the matter? Jimmy Chen.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. After we listened to the Stokes and also the community board, the chair and the members, I'm not a supporter of the staff recommendation because I have a reason as follows. The first one, the community board, last time, we vote, to support, to reimburse cost to $60,000 to the Mr. Stokes and some other affected property owners and residents. There's the 5-2, the majority. Second is based on the staff recommendation. We review even the least case. Is not a statutory obligation to meet the Stokes the cost under the Resource Management Act, and also the formal legal review by the law office, the Simpson Gleason, and by the Dr. Somerville, QC, have identified no process issue warrant any payment to Mr. Stock. However, as the community board, they raise this kind of the issue. This is the contentious and long-term the dispute the issue. It's not happened in this council, but happened in the previous council, even for the previous council. They mention if not, it's not a legal the application, but whether consider is the moral consideration. And also in the last term the council, I was told from the staff presentation, it was about 9 months when staff received the information from the submitters and some other affected residents. They have lived on the table for the 9 months, have no take any the prudent and the smooth way to persist this issue. I believe that if we back to that time period, if the council, previous council, take a prudent and a smooth way, probably this issue has been already resolved. And also my understanding, in the past, the council still have reimbursed the cost of the Resource Management Act issue. For instance, like to reimbursement the cost to the Awaka pit issue. That's part of the Resource Management Act issue to the Avatia resident the association. And also, like a community board member, she particularly mentioned earlier, the independent audit, the assessor, Dr. Shane Turner, based on his report, he still, to release the significant and serious traffic safety concerns. That's the effect. But that's a fact. No one can have any excuse. So we need to face this fact. Try to work together to deal with this issue. So that's my particular concern. All those the items. So that's why I cannot support this one. Thank you.
Any other people? Vicky Buck?
I find the difficulty here outlined on page 257 of the council agenda, 3.11. If the council were to pay an individual on the basis that the council has breached its legal duty, then the admission of breach could expose the council to further claims by other parties, such as Noble Investments Limited, as it would be wrongly accepting that there has been a breach of council's legal duties. The admission could nullify insurance cover for these claims. And I can imagine totally that if we pay this, that we will have action from other parties in relation to this subdivision. This subdivision has cost the council a great deal. And since the time I've been on the community board for the last 6 months, I've actually found, contrary to what some of the other community board members have expressed, that the staff and the work that's been done on this, through initially by Shane Turner in an independent safety audit, and then a very comprehensive process of resolving each of those 10 issues, which we took through at a combined environment and community board meeting last week, to the point that each of those issues have now been resolved, and there is a process for resolving each of those issues, to have been incredibly thorough. And the presentation, I thought, last week was actually excellent, and the work that had been done was also excellent. So the difficulty I have is that this is an individual. I'm not worried about which individual it is. I make no comment on that whatsoever. Just the precedent that this creates for public monies to be given to individuals to challenge all sorts of issues around the council is a precedent that I am not willing to create for this council. It will create for us another floodgate, one that we haven't yet mapped on any of our flood plans. And it's not one that I am really, really keen to open in any way, shape or form. This has been a particularly litigious subdivision, and there is no way that if we open this gate a little bit, that it stops at a little bit. There will be a major consequence of opening this gate.
Jamie Goff, then Ellie Jones.
Look, at the end of the day, the council is the ratepayer. The council is an organisation that administers ratepayer funds. I think we're going into a very, very dangerous land when we have the organisation that represents the ratepayer allocating ratepayer money to another ratepayer that has challenged the ratepayer. It is as confused as it just sounded right then and there. I think that I think there are serious issues that have arisen from that, and I'm not actually questioning that. I'm not getting into it. I heard Mike earlier during his deputation say, don't worry about the precedent here, but I would urge you to be very, very cognisant of the precedent. I think that when it comes to decision making, the decision itself isn't the important aspect. It is the domino effect that decision causes, and the domino effect that I see from this is very, very worrying. So for the ratepayer to allocate ratepayer money to another ratepayer is absolutely just going round in circles. And we have got a policy where the council doesn't allocate community grants to organisations that are legally challenging the council, because it's just simply going in a money go round for the council to pay people to fight the council. And that is exactly what's happening here. And I just repeat, we were told not to worry about the precedent. Please worry about the precedent, because that's top of mind in every decision that I make here.
Can I answer? Can I just...
No, I'm sorry. No, you can't. Ellie Jones?
I have a couple of questions actually. Can I do that?
Well, we're debating the
Okay.
motion.
All right. Well, I'd like to raise the issue of the Awaka pit, and I cannot recall how the money for that was paid. Was it paid to an individual or to an organisation? Okay. And I also heard just before that this isn't an individual; that this is in fact an incorporated society. So I'm confused by that as well.
No.
It's not an incorporated society. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Ellie. Pauline.
Thank you. Just briefly, and I do appreciate all the effort that has gone into this and the volunteer hours, and I know that, but I also know that there are a lot of community groups around Christchurch that actually do this sort of thing, and they raise the money themselves to do this, and they get themselves organised and incorporated or gain charitable status because you have to in order to access council funding. And so I agree with Vicky, this is a very dangerous precedent if we break that ruling. And the flack would come back from those groups who get out there and work really hard to raise money for this very sort of thing in a myriad of ways and for a myriad of reasons, and that concerns me.
Any other contribution to the debate? Ellie Jones?
I would support what Pauline has said and Vicky has said as well. However, I think it's really important to also be cognisant of where there are problems, concerns or issues about something in your community, that you should be able to challenge those. Now, if the systems have not been set up, or the organisation or the way that this has been done has not been set up, as I'm hearing from Pauline, then that is an issue for the individual or the group who has done this. But if the council does decide not to reimburse Mr Stokes today, I don't want in any way that to send a message that the council doesn't support people challenging and getting the information and the experts in order to be able to challenge decisions where they feel that's necessary.
Glenn Livingston.
Thank you. Obviously, very complex collection of issues, but two main issues stand out for me. We know about the roads. Staff have admitted that. We know about that whole process. It wasn't good. In this case, my response to it would, as a council, would it be good governance to pay $60,000 or to pay any amount to any person in this context? So I can't go with that.
Any other comments? I'd like to endorse what Vicky Buck said in relation to the concern that we would have around admissions of breaches. I think in a situation where the council is in fact legally challenged about decisions that it has made, then it is perfectly open for the council to accept a resolution of that claim with a negotiated settlement. That is perfectly in order. This is not in order, and the reason that I would take it even further is that in this particular case, the council appointed an independent commissioner to hear this and actually to make the decision whether it would be notified or not. So that decision was taken on our behalf as a consenting authority by Mr. David Kirkpatrick, and the question then becomes whether that decision was challengeable, and the advice that we've received is that it would not be open to judicial review because of the reality that he made a decision that a reasonable person could make, and it may not be one that others would have made, and different traffic experts can have different opinions, which is very clearly spelt out. So without the legal basis for presenting this to council to pay, that is why I've moved the staff recommendation. So on that note, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. Would you like to have your opposition recorded? Please, Jimmy Chen opposes. Thank you. And we'll move on to your second item, which is the Shands Road, Edmonton Road, installation of giveaway and traffic signal controls. Would you like to address that, Mike?
That's just pretty straightforward, Madam Mayor and councillors. I can't see any issue around that at all. An issue, matter of safety.
Moved by Jimmy Chen, Vicky Buck seconded. Any discussion? Yanni Johansson.
Just a question of the chair of the board, or maybe to the acting CE. I'm just mindful that one of the issues we have is that every time we have development, the traffic solution is to put in a traffic light. So if you go up Lincoln Road through Addington or Blenheim Road, we just put traffic light after traffic light after traffic light, which has a negative cumulative effect on the traffic network, but actually for the local development gives them a lot of benefit. So has anyone done any strategic traffic work around this area, and what the best solutions are for the cumulative effects that are coming from all the different types of subdivision?
No, there hasn't, and I think you're raising a legitimate concern. It would be the intention to move traffic up and down Shands Road with minimum disruption. So the more lights we get in there, we've just had some put in at the intersection of Parker Street and Shands Road now, so you can go, and then there's the motorway. So within a very, very short section of Sparks Road, Shands Road at least, from the main South Road, within a kilometre you've got 3 sets of lights. Then what we're doing now, a bit further south, is installing yet another set of lights. So it is a concern that there is a floodgate opening with lights, but
I just looked at the resolutions, and we've, I think 3 years ago, asked for a strategic traffic study of the Lincoln Road Addington area that still hasn't been done.
But this is not the Lincoln Road Addington area. So
can I just ask, a question of staff, is anyone looking at the strategic traffic implications of all these different subdivisions and the way in which they're all being apparently seem to be done in isolation?
Yep.
Because I know we've had environment court cases like in Ferrymaid, or High Court cases, where the critical judgment was that we were not taking into account cumulative traffic effects of allowing development to occur.
Look, we don't have anybody here who can specifically talk to this one here, but in fact you've raised that before, Councillor Johansson, and I think it's in the list of questions through the acting CEO report, and if it's not, I'll make sure that something goes in there.
Yeah, it's pretty fundamental, and it's sort of long overdue.
So you want to oppose this motion, or
No.
Okay.
I mean,
I can let councillors know that at the next Environmental Committee, we're having a briefing and workshop on the overall Christchurch strategic transport plan, which will include these issues.
the problem is that the strategic transport plan doesn't align to the district plan, and it doesn't align to the subdivision consents and developments that are occurring.
And we're doing a district plan review at the moment as well, and I think that it's a very valid point to raise in the context of where we're going at the moment. So we'll get an update through the Acting Chief Executive's report, but I think that I think that might be something that Councillor Clearwater could raise at his committee, the need to provide that link with the development of new subdivisions, because I think Councillor Johansson's absolutely right that we've got to make sure that it's the flow-on effects, from one set of decision after the other, and then you end up with a road that's virtually non-traversable. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried, and I think that's the end of that particular one. So we'll move Councillor Buck, seconded Councillor Chen, that the report as a whole be adopted. Those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. Carried. Thank you, Mike, very much, and Debbie for appearing as well. And we'll now adjourn for morning tea, and we'll be back here at 11:10.